A story of rescue and survival tonight from our North Idaho newsroom. Their adventure began as a Saturday afternoon drive, but ended in a cold hike just north of Priest Lake. All Don and Sherri Kendrick had was a handmade blanket to keep them warm as temperatures quickly dropped. KXLY4's John Hendricks picks up the story from there, one that could have ended in tragedy. John?
Nadine, Don and Sherri's truck slid off the road and they were stuck with no cell service. They began the trek to find a way to call for that help. Hours would tick by, but they knew they would be found, but not sure when. It was an impromptu trip to drive around Priest Lake to take in the beauty of North Idaho. Then Don Kendrick had a feeling.
It got kind of dicey driving, and I said, nah, I don't think we want to do this. So I started to back out. Well, when I did, one of the wheels broke down through, slid on the ice, and went over into the ditch.
Don and his wife, Sherri, were stuck.
And we kept checking for cell phone service and couldn't find it. And we just headed back the way we came because we knew that sooner or later we'd get back to cooler.
But that couple from Usk, Washington didn't realize how far they had traveled. As they walked, they came across a cyclist who rode down to call for help. In the meantime, they continued to look for cell service, a lifeline they desperately needed.
We finally found a spot that had cell phone reception. And this spot was probably not much bigger than a dinner plate because if I wiggled sideways at all, we lost service.
5 hours after the ordeal began, help was finally on the way. But it wouldn't come quickly. And with temperatures dipping into the 20s, all they had was this blanket.
It was getting dark and it was getting cold. And I'm guessing along about 10 o'clock, all we could do is just kind of shuffle along.
They were up at the top of the upper lake, somewhere up in this area when we found them.
Peter Bach was home near Priest River when he got the call for help.
We had a pretty good idea of where they were, assuming they didn't wander off, the road and take another spur road or what have you.
He grabbed his gear, telling his wife he wasn't sure how long this rescue would take.
She goes, "What can I do while you're getting, dressed in my gear?" And I said, "Give me some food. I'll need some food. And why don't you put some soup or stew in a thermos?"
At 10:34 p.m., 8 hours after they went off the road, help arrived for Don and Sherri.
Those two machines came up around the corner, and it was really nice. It was like, all right, things are going to be okay now.
They were pretty elated when we came around the corner, and there they were waving, and they were very happy, very relieved.
The first thing the guy said was, "I have some homemade stew."
Yes.
And he poured it from his thermos into his cup, and he says, "All I have is a fork."
The Kendricks forever grateful for a team that was just doing their job.
It's more than just, these are good people. These are good people that take care of total strangers. It's just a phenomenal thing.
And it's more than a job for rescuer Peter Bach. He was actually buried in an avalanche 30 years ago, saved by a volunteer search and rescue crew. Being a part of Priest Lake's team, his way of paying that back. Reporting in studio tonight, John Hendricks, KXLY 4 News.